Hey there, welcome to Podio Academy, Podio 101, Users and Management. In this video, we're going to dive into some foundational features, how to manage people inside Podio, whether you're a power admin or running projects for external clients, or you're getting your Podio environment off the ground for the first time. Either way, you can find some value in this training. And our focus is to help keep your workspaces secure, keep your user base clean, and your teams productive. So let's jump in. We see some training topics here. We'll look at inviting and adding members, removing members without breaking anything, user management overview, so the dashboard, what you can see for your users and roles, and what comes with upgraded plans, the various then member roles of what they can or can't do, and SSO, single sign-on, locking the front door to your data, controlling access, not just relying on us as your vendor to manage the authentication, but put more control in the hands of your IT organization at that extent as well. So we'll walk through each of these inside the Podio app together, and let's go ahead and get started. The first impression obviously matters, so you want to make sure that your accounts and everything looks clean, but in the sense of organizations, workspaces, what's the difference? What are we talking about? I have my organization, I have my workspaces. If I want to invite or add members to the organization, there's a couple different options. So I can add members to a space called the employee network. These people may not actually be in workspaces, but they might be a domain user of my organization that I've added. So I'm not taking up a license unless I'm in a workspace or have created a workspace. But this is just an initial visibility within your organization of specific employees' visibility. Adding someone to a workspace keeps their access scoped at a team or project. So again, workspaces are more at a folder level versus the entire account. So I can click on the organization, the three dots or the ellipses, whatever you want to call it, select user management here. Regardless of what option I choose, it takes me to this screen with these tabs. So if I meant to hit settings or something else, I can obviously just get there. In this case, we're looking at user management for my organization. I'm on a demo account, so obviously it's not the best example, but for the most part, Podio will treat your users with your company's email domain if you're an organization, if that's how you have it added. If not, obviously there's so many different ways and so many different people and ways to use the Podio platform, so you may not have a domain aligned with your account. In my case, I do not. So I have some employees that vary from share file domains, Gmails. In this case, I don't have that full control, but this is where I get a good grasp of who has access to the organization. Now, if I wanted to invite clients, it could be limited access to what they have. So I can obviously look at someone here now too with these actions, and I can choose to understand what they have access to. I can see two workspaces here for this user. I can view a profile. This is just tied to baseline settings on their Podio account. I can also remove the user from the org. So again, it is pointing me to the direction of the workspaces they have access to. So there's probably a little bit of intent here. The great thing with Podio is you're making these changes. Even if I hit yes, I understand here, we do have a fail safe where I have to actually type remove. So I'll go ahead and leave my good friend Charlie in here for now. And as you can see, there are different roles that these users can have. So I have my colleague here, Bruno, where I can choose to make Bruno an admin or a client, depending on the roles and what that means. So if I wanted Bruno to be able to work alongside me with billing, deleting, the whole user management in general from a licensing perspective, I would definitely want to make them an admin in that case. Many teams regret over inviting users or not cleaning up, so I do always recommend, obviously at the workspace level, it's harder to keep track of that client. Are you opening, closing them? But you do have some top-down control here over who has the account. Contextual search, I can search by their role, and again, keeping in mind of the actions that you have. So it's just as easy to remove members from the space at the same time. Now, if I was at the workspace level, if this is a workspace that I have access to, I can click into that workspace. I can see the members that are accessing this workspace, this little hub. And I can also invite members. So someone who's counted towards a paid license versus a third party, someone who can view and comment, and that's all. So again, keeping in mind how your account is set up. This is now the member roles in workspaces. So if you were looking at the Podio training for organization settings, I did touch on that a little bit, but we do have a great knowledge base article for the member roles in workspaces. You can click it by hitting this hypertext. It does provide great detail around the role at the workspace level now, so a particular segment of data, and what that user can or can't do with the actions and the yeses, the not applicable, the no, limitations. So keep in mind as you're adding users what that means. Now, something else to keep in mind when you're adding or removing users is who created automations. If you are more advanced with your licensing and you're using workflows within Podio or Podio workflow automation, formerly known as Globiflow, it is important to understand if these people are admins or if they're tied to workflows. You don't want to halt any core process. So always reassign and understand the path of the ownership before you are removing users. And I imagine that you are obviously already doing that. So we've already seen on the paid plan with the whole user management perspective, you can audit who has access again to the account. This is where you can do more bulk or cleanup actions. Sorry, is what I meant to say. And this is where you would be able to filter down the various roles that they have. So this can save you hours depending on the cleanup, depending on audits, depending on what you're looking at when you're gauging reporting and understanding the trend of what's happening in your account. This is a great place to go. So again, keep in mind user management right here. Now, the next part I want to talk about is single sign-on. So single sign-on in Podio's regard is looking to backbone off of Microsoft 365, Google Workspace. There are ways through Okta, which is then having a backbone through, like let's say a different identity source. To enable SSO generally is what the goal is for Podio. So any users with your domain should authenticate with your identity systems if you're a larger organization. If you have that set up for other applications and you have Podio, definitely worth taking a look. Obviously, the value adds here are around, reducing password reusing and breaches and this and that. It's pretty easy to understand the value of implementing single sign-on, but it's only needed if you need it. So this will be available on Plus premium plans of Podio. And so when I just clicked on security, this is where the initial setup is. So we do have a Help Center article that directs you here. As you can see, as an admin, I'm the only one that has the ability to do this. Clicking through security and enabling it for my account. So in this case, I'm on a free organization. I actually don't have a domain set up. So it would be kind of hard for me to set up SSO if I don't have a determined domain for my organization. So that is something else to take into consideration if you do want to have single sign-on. That would mean you have an organization domain. We would need to align that with your Podio account so you can work with your account team or support to get that set up. But as we see in the guide, if you do have a domain associated with your account, you can simply enable, select your IDP, your identity provider, and it routes you to log in. And we have Q&A here, so if you do have any questions to check out, again, all of that is linked when you get to security and you are trying to figure out how to go about adding domains or understanding the knowledge base article. So again, this is great. You know, you want to lock the front door. If you're real serious about security, you know, scaling, this is definitely a must-have, but keep in mind that consideration of the domains. That will wrap up the Podio Academy for user management. We looked at inviting users, talking through roles, admin settings, offboarding, keeping in mind you don't want to disrupt workflows. We explored some of the organization-wide user management. So again, keeping in mind, clicking on user management here versus going into a workspace and managing individual members and their roles, but it does look very similar. We also then looked at securing the account with SSO and understanding some of the differences, the requirement of the domain of your Podio organization. So a lot of great ways that Podio can be powerful as you structure and you build around it. Strong user management equals better collaboration in my book. So I hope that you take all of these considerations well